In the streets of Porto city centre, Rui Lacosta cannot walk more than 200 metres before stopping near another building he has renovated.
Here on this street we have this building which we will soon renovate with funds from an international investor. In this case, a Miami investor. And there, right next to it, we have a project that is almost finished. A hotel that was funded by a Mexican group.
Since purchasing 2 studio apartments in 2014, he now manages a portfolio of 75 apartments. His company, Feel Porto, specialises in the purchase and renovation of buildings for short-term rental.
And this 7-storey building will be transformed into apartments for short-term rental.
To renovate these buildings, Rui had to rely on foreign investors.
We have Spanish investors, French, we have Italians, English, and we also have investors from the Americas, in this case Brazil, the United States, Canadians.
In 2011, to get out of the austerity policies imposed by Brussels, the country wanted to attract foreign capital. Nationals who invest in real estate will be able to benefit from tax exemptions, and in just 3 years it's become a tidal wave. Renovation projects are flourishing, and Porto and Lisbon have been invaded by tourists. For Rui, the crisis has become a cash machine. Last year, his company raked in €2.5 million from short-term rentals.
From here you can see the number of cranes. This really shows the strength of the real estate market in the centre of Porto in recent years.
Portugal is earning almost €5 billion thanks to this plan to revive the real estate and tourist market. With no more austerity policies in sight, the country proudly announces that it has emerged from the crisis. But who are the ones making way for this alleged economic miracle? In the heart of the old town of Porto, Irma feels increasingly foreign in her own neighbourhood.
It has changed a lot. We have lost a lot of people in the historic centre because rents have increased exponentially. And the income, especially for the older people, cannot match up to the prices charged today. We speak for people with a pension of €250 to €280 per month. And with that, today, you cannot even pay for a room in the city centre. Over there, also, you have a building for sale.
In 2012, the government amended the law in favour of owners. The eviction of occupants in the event of renovation of the premises became much easier. 74-year-old Otelinda lives on the ground floor of this dilapidated building.
This is my room. Before it was my son's room.
She has lived here her entire life. Recently, she received a notice of eviction for unpaid bills. With a pension of €282 per month, the rent became unaffordable for her.
The decision says that you are going to have to return your house, and they ask you to pay €3,906. What will I do now that I have received this eviction notice? I'm going to have to collect my things and put everything in boxes. In these old houses where we live, where we have always lived, where we brought up our children, where we have our roots, this is what the government should be concerned about, not tourists.
In Porto, the liberalisation of the rental market leads to dozens of evictions every month. In the figures, Portugal sets an example in terms of economic recovery with 2% growth per year and an unemployment rate below 8% in 2019. But for one economist, these flattering results hide a very different reality.
Yes, it's true. The trade equilibrium is balanced, but it's balanced because of the service sector and especially tourism, an industry with very low wages. There are limitations imposed by the Brussels requirements, and the restriction of having to send a significant part of the wealth, which is important for the development of the country and to pay public debt, back to international creditors. This is a huge restriction that paralyzes the possibility of investing in the public sector.
In Portugal, public services have been shipwrecked by austerity.
The sun is shining and the conditions are perfect.
Ruben Silva gives surf lessons to children every weekend.
I only do this on the weekends because the rest of the time I'm in Lisbon.
In Lisbon, Ruben finds work as a teacher. Stringing a series of precarious contracts together for a lowly salary proved unsustainable. To go to the capital every week and find accommodation, he spends half his pay.
I have a house in Porto, but in Lisbon I live in a youth hostel. It's a precarious, undignified situation.
Ruben dreams every year of being settled with his family in Porto.
They don't know what it's like to have to leave my child and my family every week. My son will never be 7 or 8 years old again. He asks me to take him to school, but I can't.
Without giving these surf lessons, Ruben wouldn't be able to do it. To control the public deficit, the Portuguese government has frozen the salaries of civil servants for the past 10 years. The many strikes in which Ruben participated did not change anything.
To give you an idea of the situation, there are teachers who can never get to the maximum salary level. No one wants to be a teacher anymore, no one. The only jobs offered, nobody wants. You are going to do a replacement month, 2 months, with reduced hours. When people ask me what I'm going to do next year, I tell them I don't know. I don't know.
While waiting for a miracle in which he no longer really believes, Ruben continues to cover the 300 kilometers that separates him from Lisbon every week. In recent years, healthcare workers have regularly gone on strike. Miguel Guimarães chairs the Portuguese Medical Association. Like his colleagues, he denounces the lack of personnel and materials in the health sector. He wanted to show us the paediatric service. Children have been treated in this prefabricated building for 10 years.
We're talking about the St. John Hospital Centre, one of the best hospitals in Portugal. Imagine what's happening in hospitals in Veja, Évora, Porto Alegre. All these structures will not be renovated in the next 10 or 20 years. This is very serious for all the people who work in the national health sector, very harmful for our patients. Our political representatives may think that the crisis has already passed for them, but it has not passed for the Portuguese people.
Every year, the exodus of doctors and nurses continues to increase. Austerity measures ended years ago, but many Portuguese people still have to endure the social cost of economic recovery. After 53 years in this building, Otelinda was evicted. For a few more days, she can enjoy the breathtaking view of her city.
I wanted to stay in my little house, but unfortunately, it's not always as we would like.
Tourists from all over the world will soon take her place, her home of half a century replaced by a hotel.